Hey, my legion, how y'all doing today? I'm back to review something very, very extreme. Tokyo Gore Police. Now, this is like a review and a warning of sorts. Tokyo Gore. What was it? I think I got a movie called Machine Gun Girl or something like that. And it's like the Japanese. Well, I remember a long time ago I was talking to my friend Ray Brooks, and this was in Fort Detrick, Maryland. Well, I think I knew him in AIT. And I met some people while I was on TDY in Fort Detrick, Maryland. It was cool. Some of the people I met knew in the Army in the past. I met like Rudy Brown from Germany. He was there too, and he was still really cool. Just the same joking guy like before. And like Ray Brooks, which I knew somewhat from AIT, but I knew him a little bit better in Fort Detrick. And he was talking about, I finally rented, this was like 91, the summer of 91. Like a few months before I got out of the military. And I finally was able to find the movie Suspiria. I watched it. I really liked it. And he said he saw it in Japan. Ray did. And he said, like, the Japanese people, they were talking about the part where the girl was killed. And, all these things happened to her. Like, this is not allowed, this is not allowed. And he was saying, like, the Japanese people really don't like violence. Well, they sure make a whole lot of super violent movies, especially Tokyo Gore Police. That's super violent, right? That's good. And the thing with this movie is, it revolves around, like, the police talking about privatizing the police force. With a more violent police force, and they believe in just killing first. If you're a criminal, killing first, ask questions later. And then you can't ask questions because you're already killed. And, they have, like, these creatures called the engineers that are, like, can, like, body morph themselves into weapons and stuff like that. One had, like, a wiener that was shooting stuff. It was through flesh type thing, like a David Cronenberg type thing, like in Existence, but more gruesome and stuff like that. And whenever the gore started, boy, it really got to a point where, it would be disturbing. To some people, it's not for the squeamish. Or I ran about my dad in a Szechuan video, but my dad would probably say, "Well, could you turn this off? It's getting a little too much for him." Because all this stuff happened, like the thing with a chainsaw, and it was getting butchered up. Some of the stuff was real cheesy though, but someone get killed and like blood would spray all over, like in huge amounts. Well, I didn't have that much blood, but all huge amounts. And like part of this guy, the criminal, was getting like the chainsaw, like butchering his face, and this one girl cut it with a cutter. Cutters like. Really graphic, and the sound effects, stuff like that. For like the lay person who's squeamish and stuff, that might be too much. So that's why I'm doing a review and a warning and stuff like that. I could understand why some people would think it's disturbing. I didn't. And a lot of the mutilation happened to people's faces and stuff in the movie, like in Herschel Gordon Lewis's movie, because that's who did Blood Feast, but he did his most gruesome movie in, 72, called The Gore Girls. That was supposed to be his last film. And then he came back to do some stuff later, way later in the 90s and stuff. But, before his unfortunate passing. But he did stuff where, like, faces get beaten up and some really graphic stuff. And, even though that was a comedy, my dad said, like, Henny Youngman said, like, you don't have to be gruesome or like, you don't have to be dirty or something like that. And I say, Dad, he was in Herschel Gordon Lewis's most brutal movie with nudity and extreme amounts of gore in it. And my dad was shocked. And he was. He was in that. My dad was quite, you don't have to be gruesome. Because my dad was against, like, bloodshed and stuff like that. I remember he said we weren't allowed to see all these movies, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We went to... we used to rent movies. We used to go into Erie to rent movies, which would never happen now. But back in the day, we went to the library, and there was an old lady said, like, Night of the Living Dead's gory, Friday the 13th gory, Texas Chainsaw Massacre's gory, and stuff like that. That's why we're not allowed to see those movies. And those were actually tame. But with Friday the 13th, he didn't have a problem with the sequels. He had a problem with the original one. And the original one was pretty tame, like PG-13 if it was re-rated now. I mean, the clips they showed of that films that made as a Friday the 13th, that had to have been from the uncut Friday the 13th. I don't remember seeing any of that amount of blood in the Friday the 13th. It was a pretty much, not completely dry, but I mean, they didn't show a lot. I mean, the thing with the arrow through the neck, with that thing killed Karen Bacon, was the most graphic thing in the movie. But they didn't show that much blood. They showed a ton of blood in that thing, so it had to have been from the uncut version that Thomas Savini did that was running around. I never seen the uncut version. I remember that, and then Dad wanted to see the Dead Zone, and the lady said, it's gory, I want to see it. And he ran it, he said, that wasn't gory at all. And he's like, yeah, could you ask some old lady? Of course, old lady say everything's gruesome, everything's horrible. Like my grandmother, got to church, you know. I'm getting off topic. But I mean, and there's scenes like people like mutated and stuff like that and deformed in certain ways. I mean, it's all makeup and stuff, but I can understand why people would find it graphic or like disturbing. Like the movie Titane was very graphic, but I mean, the difference between something like this and Titane is Titane was very. I really got into Titane. The narrative with Tokyo Gore Police, I didn't get into it as much, so I can't. I really liked it, but I didn't completely love it. You know what I mean? Because it was like their narrative seemed distant in certain places and stuff like that. It wasn't tight enough. Whereas Titane was fascinating throughout the whole thing. Character studies, along with the bizarre stuff, the body horror with her having sex with a car and then having like a car baby. It was really bizarre. The French kind of messed up. Well, the Japanese messed up too. But I did enjoy Tokyo Gore Police. But a lot of that stuff, people who are screening might consider some nightmare fuel. That's why I started reviewing the warning, because if you're squeamish, I wouldn't recommend it. I saw it on Tubi TV English, and it was uncut. I mean, they had like some graphic stuff. I mean, it would probably be an NC-17 without a doubt. You know. So there you have it. I mean, I'm glad I saw it. I'm really glad I saw it. It was cool. It was a cool movie. I mean, I give it an 8 out of 10. I can't give it like a full on 10 out of 10 just because of how over the top and super graphic the gore was. You know, it just was not as... what am I going to say? It just wasn't as tight narrative-wise. I mean, I wasn't like on the edge of my seat where I was with Titane, which I was fully entertained by. You know, it's disturbing. Like I said, people who are squeamish might find it disturbing. I like my dad. I remember my dad was disturbed by Pain and Gain, which is a very mean-spirited movie. He said, this movie's too mean. We turned it off. I was like, well, I kind of want to see it with The Rock and Mark Wahlberg. I said, okay. And we watched the whole thing. Pain and Gain was a very mean-spirited film. But I did like it though. But it was messed up. But it wasn't like gory, but it's just mean. So I hope you like this review, everybody. I went all over the place, but that's nothing new for me. Until next time, please take care of my legion.